Just a really quick disclaimer before we get started on today's deep dive. Today's investigation involves, well, accounts of paranormal phenomena, alleged extraterrestrial biological functions, and some pretty severe botanical anomalies.
Which is a very fancy way of saying things get weird.
Very weird. And while the sources and the eyewitness accounts we're about to present to you are entirely real, we highly recommend that you explore these mysteries with, a very healthy dose of logic.
Fair enough. Though, I mean, as someone who spends entirely too much time reading folklore and true crime, I think a little appreciation for the bizarre never hurts either.
I suppose. But, the scene of the crime here is, well, it's out in Saskatchewan. If you drive past the endless flat wheat fields of Hafford, which is about 14 and a half kilometers northwest of town, you'll eventually stumble upon this lopsided wooden sign.
Right, and it points the way to a 3-acre patch of woods that just looks like a forest that's been tied in knots.
Literally tied in knots.
Yeah, travel writer Robin S. Rock actually described that sign as being written in witch scrawl, which I think perfectly sets the mood here.
It really does.
So we are looking at this small grove on private land in the rural municipality of Douglas. It's nestled on the southern slopes of the Thickwood Hills, right inside the Redberry Lake Biosphere Reserve.
And the suspect in question here, the biological suspect, I guess, is the trembling aspen tree, or, scientifically Populus tremuloid.
Populus tremuloid.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're picturing an aspen tree, you are probably thinking of those tall, elegant, perfectly straight white columns that just reach straight up to the sky.
But not here.
Mm.
Like, not even close.
Yeah.
In this specific 3-acre grove, the branches do the complete opposite. They twist, they loop around, they snake horizontally, they even bend completely downwards, literally burying themselves back into the dirt.
Which is just a crazy visual.
It is. Ezrock's field notes describe these silver-flecked branches with like black scars on them as looking like a goblin's claw or the dislocated legs of a giant spider.
Dislocated legs of a giant spider. That's incredibly specific. And terrifying.
It's vivid, right? He even mentioned that stepping onto the boardwalk there was so surreal that he started shouting into the cold wind for Tim Burton, like he expected it to be a movie set.
I mean, the visual is definitely mesmerizing, but for me as an investigator, the detail that elevates this from just, a quirky photo op to a genuine mystery is the isolation of it.
Oh, the boundary line.
Exactly, because less than 10 meters away from this twisted, knotted grove, just across a little grid road, there are other aspen trees. And those trees are perfectly normal.
Perfectly straight.
Right, they grow straight as an arrow. Wait, so just to be clear, it's this isolated pocket, and there are normal trees right nearby, just a few steps away.
Literally right across the road.
See, from a logical standpoint, that is like finding a totally chaotic, gravity-defying haunted house sitting just 30 feet away from a row of perfectly manicured, cookie-cutter suburban homes. It logically shouldn't exist in the same zip code, let alone the same soil.
No, it shouldn't. And that stark, almost aggressive visual contrast naturally bred local legends. I mean, you can imagine.
Oh, absolutely.
Since the 1940s, when people really started paying attention to this grove, the folklore has just snowballed into this incredible catalog of the weird. The physical appearance alone creeps people out, but the behavioral anomalies are what really fuel the ghost stories.
Right, because we're talking about the reports of livestock actively avoiding the area.
Yes. The previous landowner, and the current one too, Rick Simmons, they both noted that cattle absolutely refuse to walk through these trees.
Which, I mean, is it just because the branches are dense and low-hanging and poking them?
Well, the locals don't think so. They believe the animals sense something inherently wrong with the space. And honestly, it translates to human visitors, too.
Wait, people refuse to go in?
No, they go in, but people frequently report experiencing sudden, totally unexplained dizziness the moment they step into the grove.
Dizziness. Okay, well, see, I have a theory on that.
Oh, I'm sure you do. Let's hear it.
If you've ever stood in a room with a funhouse mirror or walk through one of those slanted gravity illusion houses at an amusement park, you know that your brain actively panics when the physical geometry of a space just doesn't make sense.
Right, like your equilibrium is thrown off.
Exactly. Your inner ear and your eyes are sending completely conflicting signals. That's highly likely what these tourists are feeling when they're surrounded by trees growing completely upside down and sideways. It's vertigo.
Okay, that's a completely fair, logical deduction. But that dizziness, you have to admit, It creates an atmosphere where people desperately want to explain the unexplainable.
Sure.
And when logic fails, imagination takes over. So the
Yeah.
local community started generating suspects for what could have, traumatized these trees.
Right. And I imagine they started with the environment, like weather.
They did. A prevalent early theory was a massive lightning strike hitting the grove, or even a meteorite crashing into the area, contaminating the soil with otherworldly minerals that poisoned the root systems.
Okay, a localized chemical alteration of the dirt. I mean, as far as theories go, it at least attempts to use physics and geology.
Well, don't give them too much credit, because then we move into the realm of the fantastic. Global news actually reported on a local claim that giant sap-slurping rabbits used to live in the area.
Wait, giant sap-slurping rabbits.
Yes. And the theory suggests their aggressive feeding habits traumatize the young saplings, causing them to heal and grow in these mutated, twisted patterns.
Wow. Okay, we have officially left physics and entered a bad 1950s monster movie, Giant Rabbit.
Oh, the 1950s monster movie vibe gets even better. There's a classic local ghost story. It's almost like a running joke now that a quote-unquote crooked lawyer was buried on the property.
Yo.
Yes. And his sheer moral corruption supposedly seeped into the soil and cursed the roots of the trees growing above him.
So the trees are literally crooked because of a crooked lawyer. I mean, you have to appreciate the sheer poetry of small-town storytelling.
You really do.
Yeah.
But the ultimate weird theory, and this is my personal favorite, I have to admit, was championed by a local farmer.
Okay.
He claimed that back in the 1940s, an alien spacecraft landed in the thicket, and one of the extraterrestrials stepped out to take a bathroom break.
An interstellar rest stop. Are you kidding me?
I am not. The alien urinated in the grove, and those radioactive or otherworldly compounds forever altered the flora in that exact 3-acre spot.
Okay, I have to push back here. I really do.
I knew you would.
Look, I can maybe buy that a meteorite altered the soil chemistry for a few decades. But whether it's alien DNA, a cursed lawyer, or space rock minerals, the whole tainted soil theory has a massive logical plot hole.
Which is?
If the dirt is contaminated, why are the trees just 10 meters away totally fine?
Right.
If the soil was the issue, you'd expect a gradient, right? The trees closest to the epicenter would be very twisted, and they'd get straighter and straighter the further away you get as the contamination kind of dilutes in the earth.
Yeah.
But that's not what we see.
No, it's not.
It is a sharp binary line. Crooked here, straight there, 30 feet apart. It makes no logical sense for a soil contaminant.
And that sharp boundary is exactly what fascinated Rick Sawansky. He's a technician in the horticulture department at the University of Saskatchewan, and he's been working there since, 1971.
Oh, wow. So he knows his stuff.
Definitely.
Hmm.
He looked at that exact same plot hole you just mentioned and decided to run a proper forensic test on the crooked bush.
Which is exactly what you need. But I'm assuming he couldn't just test the dirt if the dirt wasn't the problem. So, let me guess. He took a sample of the tree itself, planted it in new soil in a totally different environment, and watched it grow perfectly straight, proving it was some sort of localized Saskatchewan soil phenomenon all along.
You would think that would be the logical assumption, but no.
Wait, really?
Really. Sawatsky went to the grove, took a cutting from one of the twisted branches, and brought it back to his lab in Saskatoon, which is a 75-minute drive away.
Okay, so totally different place.
Different weather, different soil, perfectly controlled, normal lab conditions. He propagated the cutting, waited, and the new tree grew downward and twisted, just like its parent.
It brought the chaos with it.
It absolutely did, which completely rules out the soil, the meteorites, the lightning, and yes, the extraterrestrial bathroom break.
Wow. So the verdict is definitive then.
Totally definitive. It is a genetic mutation baked right into the plant's genome. It's not something happening to the tree from the outside. The internal instructions building the tree are fundamentally scrambled.
That's wild.
Yeah.
But biologically speaking, how does a tree even know which way is up? Because, I mean, to grow in circles and dive back into the dirt, it has to be actively ignoring gravity.
And that is such a crucial piece of the puzzle. It's fascinating. Plants have this built-in GPS system called gravitropism.
Gravitropism.
Right. Basically, inside the cells of the roots and the stems, there are these tiny, dense particles called stateless.
Stateless. Oh,
And they physically settle at the bottom of the cells due to gravity. They literally sink like stones in a pond. And this tells the plant exactly where down is.
oh. like a carpenter's level using a bubble of air, but, using heavy microscopic rocks instead.
That is a beautiful analogy, yes.
Yeah.
So once the plant's internal carpenter level tells it where down is, it uses growth hormones, primarily one called auxin to steer.
Okay. And how does the hormone steer it?
Well, in normal trees, auxin builds up on the lower side of a stem and tells those specific cells to elongate, which pushes and bends the stem upward toward the sky.
Ah. So in the crooked bush, that internal carpenter's level is either completely broken or the hormones are totally misinterpreting the signals.
Exactly.
The tree is just constantly overcorrecting, twisting around blindly, and expending all this energy fighting gravity in the completely wrong direction.
And the fact that this mutation spread to an entire 3-acre grove brings us to the specific biology of trembling aspens, because aspens don't typically reproduce just by dropping seeds.
Right, they do something else.
Yeah, they propagate via a root system called suckering.
Right, right. So instead of dropping seeds like a dandelion, an aspen spreads more like a strawberry plant or creeping ivy. It sends a root out horizontally underground, pops up a periscope, and grows a clone.
Yes, that means this isn't a forest of thousands of individual mutated trees all struggling together. This entire 3-acre grove is a single clonal colony.
Which is mind-blowing.
It is a single massive organism wearing thousands of different hats above the soil. Every single crooked tree you see there is a direct genetic clone originating from one single mutated ancestor tree that sprouted back in like the 1930s or 40s.
So it's a genetic copy-paste error that just kept duplicating itself through the root system over and over?
Exactly.
But if they're burning all this energy running on a biological hamster wheel, just twisting and turning instead of reaching for the sun, they can't be very tall, right?
No, they are incredibly stunted. These trees are about 70 years old, but they are only 15 to 20 feet high.
Oh.
Yeah. To give you some context, a normal, healthy aspen reaches 15 to 20 feet tall in just 15 years.
So they are putting 70 years of life energy into going basically nowhere, which, hang on, that begs a major evolutionary question.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
If a tree is genetically programmed to grow its branches straight down into the dirt instead of up toward the canopy to get sunlight, shouldn't natural selection have aggressively wiped this out decades ago? I mean, how is it alive?
Rick Sawatsky asked the exact same question. And the answer reveals, honestly, the final brilliant twist in this whole mystery.
Okay.
Sawatsky explains that this mutation is, for all intents and purposes, a lethal gene.
Lethal because, well, in a dense forest, sunlight is the only currency that matters. If you can't reach the light, you die.
Exactly. If you took one of these crooked trees and planted it in a normal forest, mixed in with healthy, straight-growing aspens, it would absolutely be a death sentence.
Right. The normal trees would shoot straight up.
Yeah, they'd form a dense canopy overhead and completely steal all the light. The crooked tree, struggling down in the dirt, would be shaded out and die very quickly.
So it just got incredibly lucky with its real estate.
Extremely lucky.
Yeah.
Total, sheer isolation is the only reason this organism survived. It found a specific, empty 3-acre pocket of the prairie where it could spread its root suckers without ever having to fight a straight tree for the sun.
It just expanded into a biological vacuum.
Yes, exactly.
That's incredible. Their absolute worst weakness, the inability to reach for the sun, is exactly what makes them a protected tourist attraction today. I mean, from an investigative standpoint, it's like a suspect who only avoids jail time because they happen to get stuck in an elevator on the night of the heist. Their isolation literally saved their lives.
It really did. And today, its boundaries are permanently locked in. The grove is surrounded by a municipal grid road on one side and a perimeter access road on the other.
Oh, so it's trapped.
Basically. The roots can't spread any further across the compacted dirt of the roads, but the normal trees also can't encroach on it. So it is perfectly preserved in this little prairie bubble.
But that isolation didn't just save them from other trees. Ironically, it made them so visible that it introduced an entirely new threat, didn't it? Tourists.
Oh, massive threat. The site draws over 5,000 visitors a year now. The property owner, Rick Simmons, he routinely sees busloads of seniors just pulling up.
Busloads.
Yeah. He's had people travel from as far away as Australia just to stand among these trees. I mean, it gained national attention when CBC Radio's Morningside featured it.
Right.
And listeners voted it one of the 54 wonders of Canada. It was even captured on film by Disney way back in 1957 for their true-life adventure fantasy movie called Perry.
Wow. So there is cultural documentation going back decades. But you mentioned Robin Ezrock talking about Tim Burton earlier. I have to imagine the spooky vibe draws a very specific kind of crowd, too.
Oh, for sure. Ezra noted that the Gothic crowd absolutely loves this place.
Mm.
People actually travel out to the Crooked Bush to throw creepy Halloween parties, fully leaning into that lingering supernatural folklore.
I mean, if you're looking for a natural haunted forest, you really can't do better than a landscape of giant spider legs. But with 5,000 people tromping through a tiny 3-acre patch of mutated roots, they must be doing some serious damage. You can't have thousands of boots stepping on a single living organism without consequences?
No, and it became a major concern. The trees are already genetically compromised. They really don't need tourists stomping on their new root suckers.
Right.
Rick Simmons also mentioned that occasionally people would literally cut off a crooked limb and throw it in the back of their station wagon as a souvenir.
You serious? Which is just infuriating. You're dismantling the very mystery you traveled to see.
Exactly. So to stop that, the local tourism board in Hafford stepped in and built a raised wooden boardwalk that winds through the most spectacular parts of the trees.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, it allows people to get close without compacting the soil or crushing the new growth. Hafford's mayor, Ron Kolchuk, has been incredibly vocal about preservation, constantly reminding visitors that this is a totally unique natural treasure. Like, do not take cuttings, do not climb the trees, and whatever you do, stay on the boardwalk.
It's a delicate balance. You want people to experience the anomaly, but you have to actively protect it from being loved to death.
For sure. But, we started this deep dive with rumors of dizzy cattle and extraterrestrial rest stops, and we ended up with this really elegant scientific reality of survival against the odds.
Honestly, I find the reality almost more fascinating than the ghost stories.
Okay.
We went looking for a paranormal culprit, but what we found was a masterclass in biological resilience. And for you listening, I think there's a really compelling takeaway here. We spend a lot of time categorizing things as normal or broken. But the crooked bush is a great reminder that when you see something in the world that looks wrong or inefficient or twisted, whether that's in nature or in a system or even in a person, it might not be broken at all.
No, it might just be operating on a completely different set of instructions,
Right.
a different biological blueprint that we just haven't decoded yet.
Exactly. So, before we wrap up today's investigation, we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over the next time you're out walking in the woods.
Ooh, I like this.
Remember how we established that these trembling aspens are clonal? This entire eerie, sprawling 3-acre maze of twisted wood is
Mm.
technically one single massive organism.
Right.
A single genetic glitch created a landscape so bizarre that people travel across the globe just to stand inside it. So consider this. The Earth is vast, and much of it is completely untamed. If this one spectacular lethal mutation managed to find a safe harbor in a tiny pocket of the Saskatchewan prairie, what other beautiful, impossible mutations are quietly surviving right now in completely isolated corners of the world, just waiting for someone to stumble upon them?